Hello and welcome to our webinar, How One Travel Company Digitally Redesigned to Boost Engagement, in this case InterMiles, the Importance of Customer Experience. My name is Rim Badri and I will be your host today. So today's presenters for your webinar are Ashok Karania, VP of Global Alliances and Strategic Accounts at INFOSTRETCH, and Ketan Phanse, VP and Head of Information and Digital Technology at InterMiles. Ashok is an entrepreneurial leader with more than 15 years of senior management experience in strategy, sales, alliances, and client relations. He is a growth-oriented professional with a proven track record in actualizing new digital ideas. As VP and Head of Information and Digital Technology of InterMiles, Ketan has been instrumental in developing Jet Privilege as an independent loyalty company and then transforming it to InterMiles as a new brand. He has experience managing a vast array of technologies, including web, mobile, marketing automation, and cloud. And before we begin here, let me just review some housekeeping items. First, this webinar is being recorded and will be distributed to you via emails, allowing you to share it with your internal teams or watch it again later. Second, your line is currently muted. Third, please feel free to submit any questions during the call by utilizing the chat function or the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We will make sure to answer all your questions towards the end of the presentation. We will do our best to keep this webinar to the 45-time allotment. And at this time, I'd like to turn over the presentation to Ashok.
Hey, thanks, Rim. Thanks, Rim, for the kind introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, friends, wherever you're joining from. Today, we are going to talk about how one company transforms itself digitally to evolve into a next evolution stage. Of course, we'll start with a quick introduction of what we are going to cover, what's the main topic on the agenda. Move on to the real case study, and we have none other than Ketan, who's going to give us an inside view of how he was involved in the whole transformation process. What are the technology building blocks and how we use the COVID response time to that. Digital transformation, a very used, overused and abused term these days. We see that every business aims to become a digital organization. Often we have seen people applying a digital lipstick and calling them a digital organization. But even when there's a real digital transformation, it's a very elaborate process. What we see, CEOs announcing a digital transformation initiative, they're creating a big task force, appointing a big consulting firm, giving the project a very cool and a sexy name, having new paraphernalia around it, and everybody is on board. This is all great when you have luxury of time. But what if the storm hits you unawares? You know, Taleb said about the Black Swan event, right? So if you come across such and you have been no time to respond, you have no time to react, and you're forced to transform yourself, what really happens then? It's like, imagine you flying in the middle of the air and you have to fix a plane. And not only fix a plane, paint it red, keep the passengers happy. And how many passengers here? More than 10 million passengers. Yes, that's the scale of what InterMiles has been. And I think it's befitting for us to hear about this humongous task from a very charismatic, but at the same time, a productive, resilient, and a very resourceful person who used all his tenacity and vision to hold the folks together and transform this process. So Ketan, without a further ado, I request you to take us through the journey from your own eyes and from your own experience.
Thanks, Ashok, for a very overwhelming introduction. And thank you for having me here with InfoStretch. It's my pleasure to share some of the experiences that we had in an eventful last 12 months or so. And I must say that the exciting journey continues with more and more events, especially with COVID situation out here. And I hope all the audience out here is safe, and wish you all a very safe environment to you and your family. So for those who are not familiar with InterMiles, let me just briefly give a glimpse of who we are, what we do, which can just help you understand the organization.
Welcome to InterMiles, a one-of-its-kind and the most rewarding travel and lifestyle program. InterMiles enables invaluable experiences for our rapidly growing community of members by offering them completely free vacations, amazing experiences, as well as daily use products in exchange for their InterMiles. Earning InterMiles is extremely easy and simple. Earn InterMiles when you book a flight or a hotel stay. No matter where you're going, just head to intermiles.com. Also earn InterMiles when you shop, eat out, fill up fuel or purchase from any of our partners. You can also multiply your InterMiles earnings by using our co-brand cards for your daily spends. See your InterMiles add up every day, no matter what you do. Yes, it's that simple. Earning InterMiles across all our partners also enables you to move up our membership tiers faster. With every tier upgrade, the benefits get better, opening up a world of privileges like lounge access, excess baggage allowance, complimentary seat select, in-flight meals, and much more. So if you believe, like we do, that every experience must count towards an enriching and rewarding life, come join our community of members. Become an InterMiler today. Sign up now.
All right, so that was
welcome to InterMiles, a one-of-its-kind.
Let me just move to the next slide. Okay, so as you could understand, we are one of the largest loyalty programs in India. We started off as Jet Privilege way back in 1994. So technically we are more than 25 years old. We started with being a frequent flyer program to one of the largest airlines in India at that time, called Jet Airways. And the journey for the initial few decades was largely to build up a frequent flyer audience in India, benchmark ourselves to some of the global players like the Miles and Moores or A-Advantage. And then in way back in 2014, Jet Privilege was carved out as a separate entity with a very specific focus on growing loyalty as an everyday brand in India, ensuring that we focus much more beyond just airline travel and bring in a much more holistic way of partnerships, rewards and recognition to our members. And last 5 to 6 years have been one of that of tremendous growth. We grew from about 2.5 million members in 2014 to about 10 million plus last year. However, in this journey, towards middle of 2019, we had an unexpected turn of events, and I would be sharing some of my experiences about that today. We were heavily dependent on Jet Airways as our core loyal airline host, and during middle of May of 2019, an unfortunate turn of events led to Jet Airways filing for insolvency. And that meant that we had to completely reinvent ourselves, reposition ourselves to our members, such that their trust in us and the currency that they had earned and the relationship that they shared with us over the decades is not broken. Think of it this way: for those who are in the United States, how do we run a Advantage without an American Airlines? How do we run a True Blue without JetBlue, or how do we run a Sky Miles without a Delta being there? That was the kind of challenge thrown to us, and that's where the entire journey of from Jet Privilege to InterMiles we started off.
So, Ketan, would this be a first case study of an loyalty program rebranding itself, changing itself without the mother airline in existence?
Yeah, a lot of people have rebranded their loyalty programs over the period of time, but the one to do it, I guess, without a host airline, I guess, to my knowledge, we would be the first ones. It has been, quite a decade, quite a year, specifically last 2019, globally for all the airlines. COVID has just added to the woes, but it has been a challenging year, and to see that through, happy to be part of that journey and share some of these learnings out here. So as I mentioned, we've been more than 10 million plus members. We have about 150 odd partners across different verticals. You could have seen in the video, ranging from our partners on the credit card side with some of the leading banks in India, to fuel partnerships, airline partnerships, dining. We work with the likes of Amazon's, from our affiliate partnerships on the e-commerce side. And in the process, we kind of ended up issuing more than 33 billion miles last year. Um, and the challenge for us was, how do we traverse this journey from Jet Privilege to InterMiles as a new brand? We wanted to ensure that the trust in the brand and the organization remains consistent, but at the same time, a customer does not have the baggage at the back of his head that, here is the airline based loyalty program whose airline does not exist anymore. And that does add to a lot of questions around, what do I do with the millions of miles that I've accumulated and lying there in my account? I am a platinum member. How does that continue to be treated, and what privileges would I get? So those were some of the questions that lied in front of us. um, we started with uh, ambitious um, purpose, which was to fulfill the aspirations of our members by creating memorable and rewarding experiences. That purpose and that mission for us continued to be true even if our brand was going to change. The core value proposition that we took to our customers of, a free experience, a free holiday, giving you something that you would always aspire to, and fulfilling those aspirations with experiences, is something that we always stood true to deliver. However, we wanted to use this opportunity to make a change in the market. Typically, it was cluttered with a lot of deal hunters, with a lot of cashbacks in the market within the travel and the commerce play, and we wanted to keep ourselves pretty different. We therefore decided to focus the entire conversation and change it, from being a very loyalty and a currency centric brand to more of a customer driven brand. We wanted to move away from just talking about things to end to end being able to deliver the experience, being dependent rather than being dependent on an airline or a partner. We wanted to kind of own the experience, be accountable to deliver it. uh, we wanted to change the narrative from talking about just simply benefits like an excess baggage or certain tiers or lounge access, to being able to create truly memorable memories and experiences for our customers. With that in mind, and about a month or so of deliberation on what should be our name, what should be our visual identity, what should we stand for, we ended up calling ourselves InterMiles. It not only resonated miles as a currency, miles as a medium of travel, but also the entire ecosystem of interchangeability, travel, and we felt that this kind of resonated well with our ecosystem, and at the same time also ensure that we are making a very clean cut from our previous band history of being jet privilege. It would have been easy for us to call ourselves jet miles or privilege miles or something like that, but we wanted to actually break the clutter and come out with a clean slate to our members. So that was half the challenge. The true challenge remained, how do we ensure that InterMiles as a brand is delivered with the same level of expectation, and then it's engaging with the customers going forward truly. We'll just, you know, we started completely changing the way we talk to our customers. Visually, what we stood for as InterMiles as a new brand, the tonality, the colors, the way we, used our um, value proposition to elevate some of the key points. Very different from what we used to be doing in the jet privilege era. Um, we decided to focus on three key pillars: travel, lifestyle, and loyalty and payments. And that's something that we continue to be building upon in 2020 as well. I'll spend some time maybe talking through you to what does it mean to do the digital transformation from a technology perspective. What did it mean to actually be able to deliver this new brand, this new avatar, so to say. Uh, we had about 2 months of timeline to completely transform ourselves and give this brand up on the table. So one of the first challenges that we faced, and this was, way back in May of 2019, where our core engines of the ecosystem, which was the infrastructure hosted in the data center, the servers, some of the servers that were hosted on the data center were completely inaccessible. That was a sudden unturnout where we were sharing some of our assets within the data center of Jet Airways. They were no longer accessible. We had to invoke a complete disaster recovery in 2 hours, ensure that there is no downtime for the members who are accessing and were anxious already because of all the news in the media. We wanted to ensure that Jet Privilege is still up and running and you're able to access it. It meant that within a week's time, we set up a complete new data center, move physically all our servers and racks, take them outside from the Jet Airways cage, plug the wiring back in, and get back the ecosystem up and running. That was the first thing that hit us even before we actually started our brand transformation journey. Luckily, at that point of time, except few of our critical assets, most of them were also hosted on cloud and didn't get impacted as much. The second challenge was to ensure we keep the plane flying, which means that the platforms, the value proposition, the access to the ecosystem is up and running despite the suspension of Jet Airways as the host airline. We had to ensure that as a customer, you are continuing to be able to book a free flight, book any flight, being able to use your miles for an air ticket, which was our core value proposition. And in this regards, which was early, and by the way, this entire platform was earlier delivered by Jet Airways, and which meant in a period of couple of months, we had to build our own travel booking engine, which would connect with multiple airlines, provide the customers to log in, book a free flight within India, internationally, and being able to ensure that that trust with the currency continues. We started with a very strong campaign called as JP Miles, more powerful than ever, because at that point of time, we were still Jet Privilege Miles. We had not changed to InterMiles, and it was more about keeping the trust going with our customers. The next thing.
So what I found interesting, Ketan, was the entire Jet would have big mega systems, and you switched over them to a completely new design system within weeks. So that was phenomenal, I would say.
Yeah, that it was phenomenal. It was 1 week of sleepless nights, and I'll leave it up there.
And lots of coffee, I'm sure.
And lots of coffee, and lots of celebrations after that. And then came the actual journey of rebranding Jet Privilege to InterMiles. That's where in September of 2019 we coined the term, and we had a hard date to deliver it by 15th of November, which means in the span of 2 months we had to change all the platforms that we would be operating, whether it's a dining platform, it's a hotels platform, uh, whether it is our flights platforms, our main websites, applications, everything had to change. It was about, and I'll throw some more lights out there, and launch a completely new brand in a period of 2.5 months. A lot of teamwork, and I'll just in a couple of minutes maybe throw more light on what did it mean from a technology perspective to deliver a rebranding kind of an experience. Lastly, we had to ensure that we are keeping our passengers smiling. Our members were always at the core of whatever we did. We had the trust and the backing of 10 million plus members who had worked with us for last 20, 25 years, and wanted this brand to be really engaging and continue that uh, relationship with us. With this, we also launched a new tier program. A lot of benefits that earlier a platinum member, a gold member used to enjoy was provided by the host airline. And without that, we had to ensure that we come up with a completely new benefits tiers program that resonates well with our members. We ensure that equivalent or better benefits are being provided so that the hard work tier that you have owned as a platinum member, as a gold member, the value of that does not depreciate. As I mentioned, launching a new brand from a technology perspective meant changing the complete UI UX, changing the content across the page, across all the pages, launching new features and new platforms which didn't exist at all, ensuring all our marketing channels, touch points are completely transformed with InterMiles, ensuring our core IT infrastructure, the DNS, the routings, the domains, the SSL certificates are also changed, and doing a lot of data migration. We had a set of 7 to 8 core platforms. Each and every URL on that site had to be changed. Features, we had to bring up a new tier program. We had to introduce new capabilities that, here is the lounge for you. If you're booking a flight, can I redeem that lounge while booking a flight using the points that I have? And these kinds of features and products we never had, in our Jet Airways times. We then moved to changing the complete UI, the CSS, the logos, the verbiage, proofreading every page, ensuring all the policies, the terms and conditions, the FAQs are updated with the right set of new brand guidelines. A lot of heavy lifting work on the technology side from the marketing campaign management platforms. We didn't want to just do a superficial change of changing the logo. We wanted to ensure every touch point that our customer interacts with uh, is now talking InterMiles, which included um, our core email campaign management projects, meant taking up new IPs, warming up the domain to ensure they are able to deliver 10 million plus emails to all our customers, etc. I talked about the IT infrastructure. A lot of heavy lifting had to be done on data organization, where we had to ensure the complete re-tiering of all our members. So this is a new calculation model. Earlier used to become a gold to platinum basis the number of flights you took on Jet Airways, and that didn't hold true. So how do I retune the entire engine to being able to recognize you by the basis the number of miles earned, and ensure your tiers are from a data perspective are calibrated accordingly. So the branding actually touched based on almost all the aspects of technology that one could witness, and that was the real challenge of this activity. That was the outcome of the transformation. You can see every flight that you booked, there was an InterMiles proposition. A hotel that you booked had an InterMiles proposition. Even a jacket that you would buy from our commerce play, had an InterMiles proposition. We then looked at other verticals, our credit card partners, fueling up, you could go to any nearby fuel pump, tank up your car, and earn miles on it. You could reserve a table for dining and earn intermiles on it. So we wanted to be on as many touch points and as many daily engagement criterias of our customers, and ensure that we are not just an airline centric program anymore, but truly a everyday rewards and a lifestyle program. So that had been an exciting journey for us uh, um, over the last few months. We then had to actually take a break to say, you know what, we've delivered intermiles. Let us take the transformation to the next level. Let us up the game. Let's have more engagement with our members. And that's when we partnered with InfoStretch and began the second phase of our transformation and about taking it to the next level. I'll like to invite maybe Ashok to share some of his journey as a partner working with us on the entire transformation.
Sure. Thanks, Ketan. And I have been a Jet Privileges member for quite some time, and
An
I know
intermile
that.
member, Ashok, to correct you.
No, yeah, but I'm just saying, right? So the Jet Privileges, and then within a few weeks of this, I received my new membership, new things within a few weeks of transformation, and now I'm of course an Intermiles member. So I have also experienced the speed of the execution at the ground level, and seen, and of course been very happy to be part of this journey. So let me tell you how we as InfoStretch to work with Ketan, and it was a great experience for InfoStretch teams also to work on this. So the whole transformation which Ketan spoke about is visible in this screen, right? So this is the result of the collaboration which we did with Intermiles to build this app. Uh, this is an app which is very clean, neat, with a world-class user experience in mind. The real estate is very important, and you can see three distinctive things, right? Welcoming, of course, the Intermise member, telling about him, where does he stand, what are the points he has, and specifically going into how he could earn more miles, how he can redeem his existing miles, and what are the current promotions going on. So within one screen, give the user what he or she is really looking for. The beautiful, simple things they are on front end, they tend to be require a lot of complexity at the back end to make it beautiful. And for that, we fall back upon our traditional InfoStretch way of looking at things, right? As I said, a lot of organizations look at it as a digital transformation journey, whereas we take pride in being a engineering partner for the whole digital evolution. We see that the digital journey is a series of different steps, and the first step is, of course, to go digital. How could you quickly enable the customer achieve the vision in a very short span of time? Develop something quick POCs, quick projects, and make it live. And in case of Intermise, it was more important than ever that the brand presence was made visible. Second is then go about being digital, building the right infrastructure, building the foundational steps, which are required, which is digital engineering, putting DevOps, other technological infrastructure in piece. And here we heavily rely upon the automation and the various tools which are available. Last but not the least part is evolving into a complete digital organization. And today, as we see, Intermiles is a in complete digital organization. You work upon leveraging the data, building a lot of data analytics tools, and using those feedback to constantly better the value proposition for the customers. If we take a little more double click into each of these approaches, right? The going digital part was about quickly experimenting things, doing things as we learned, and whatever we learned to redo them, right? And I think here our modular development approach came very, very handy for us to build those quick pilots and take it to the market. I think I and Ketan will be specifically speaking about some of the engagements we planned for the COVID times. We also fell back upon using a hybrid approach of using both web as well as native components for ensuring quick go to market depending on the business situation. As you know, the flight started to get decommissioned, and the planes were grounded. So we put the flights component on a deprioritization mode, and we fell back upon more of the web views, while some of the other components like customer engagement were highly prioritized. We use a lot of reusable components, libraries to ensure that the product is out there. Then, of course, started also working on creating the robust and the scalable backends, right? And I think one thing, and I would give full credit to Ketan and his team, that while we were working on this project, there was tremendous pressure with regard to timing, but we did not compromise any of the critical infrastructures, whether it was creating a single pipeline for security, continuous testing, building the automation piece to ensure that the regressions are taken care of. We were following a 2 weekly release cycle, but at the same time ensuring the right things were done. We also invested on creating a very, very strong microservices and a scalable backend. Uh, this was the technology piece. The execution was equally important, and we fell back upon the scaled agile approach, right? Where we, as I said, created multiple development tracks, created multiple teams to work on the micro apps and then bring all of them together. Uh, a strong analytics framework was also put into picture to ensure that the feedback was taken into account. The user's behavior was constantly monitored. All this while we acted as an extended arm for InterMiles. I think during the entire process, the culture piece also stood out equally well, and our alignment with not only Ketan, Manish, but their entire teams, at every level was clearly visible. We were culturally together. I think Ketan mentioned about celebrations. So there were, of course, a lot of celebrations. There were events. There were also crises, where everybody was awake the whole night. But all of this created a one and a connected team. I distinctly remember that, there were a lot of anxiety for both Intermise members as well as our team members, when event after events were unfolding. I think Ketan took upon it himself to address those concerns with everyone. And I think the results showed, everyone rolled up their sleeves, everyone extended, their hours, and ensured that, again, fixing the plane, painting it red, and keeping it running, and keeping everyone smiling.
Yeah, and Ashok, I guess it was a complete team effort where there was one challenge after another. We completed the rebranding activity, and then there was launched the entire mobile application in 2 months timeline, and truly a team activity where everyone just went beyond the cause, no matter if he or she was from InfoStretch or InterMiles, but just worked together as one team to deliver one milestone after another.
Yeah, and I had sneaked into some of the Scrum meetings or your daily kickoff calls in the morning, the daily stand-up calls, and I would see Ketan saying, "Okay, this team go and ensure check this, Manali, you look into this, Diksha, you look into this." So all the war room situations were very, very exciting. Coming back to the architecture, I'm not going to go into a deep technology discussion here, but essentially the clean UI we looked at, it was actually multiple micro apps into one, right? And that's where the different parallel teams, the micro app structure came into picture. So if you look at the core component, there are flights, hotels, fuels, dine out, multiple apps built into one. The right hand side of the screen is a very simplistic depiction of what we did, for a brand like InterMiles, and the digital lifestyle business they are into. The MarTech becomes a very, very important component. So there was, of course, urban airship for notifications. We used branch IO, we used Arab analytics, and all of them were very, very important to see the enrollment behavior, etc., and make corresponding changes. The middle SDK, the whole SDK with regard to theming, the idea was very simple: how we could rebrand it for different brands at different points of time and build everything into the the SDK. So we could do a quick theming, we could do a quick customization, and give it to other partners whom we may enroll into a partnership at a later stage. The backend, of course, was very, very important. And I think for a brand like InterMiles, which has multiple partners, the integrations become very important. Whether you are partnering with a shopping organization, whether you're partnering with a fuel organization, hotels, or other bill payment systems, we designed this in a very, very, seamless way. There's, of course, API managers which were in play. And I think the micro, architecture really came in handy. The microservices structure. This is another simplistic representation of what we built into. So of course there's Amazon EC2 right there, but the core here is the API gateway, which acted, as a gateway for all the other backend services which were there, taking the request, passing it to the right backend service, checking the response. Is the response right? If required to do massaging response, see if there's any downtime. All of this was done. As I mentioned, we use the AWS, as a cloud partner in this engagement, and all of this really ensured that the building blocks were truly digital. And when we were able to add or modify something, that was a very, very quick thing. And you know what? I think this really helped us when the pandemic struck and we had to again face another black swan event. And I think that's what we are going to talk about in the next set of our discussion. So, we said COVID hit us, flights stopped flying, the hotels had thin attendance, many of them closed down. So, how do we really engage the users, right? The whole proposition of InterMiles was also fly, check into hotels, collect more points, spend those points, and have better engagement. But without the flights and without the hotels, how do we keep the customer engaged? And also for a brand that has recently been branded and offering a new value proposition. So how do we give new value proposition to our existing customers? So I think Ketan and his business team came with different ideas, and I think some of them are represented on the screens, right? So we
Yeah, I
had
think it was an exciting time, though a challenging one. You know, like you mentioned, travel continues to be down. Therefore, we decided largely to shift our focus to engagement, to lifestyle activities. One of the, just to give an example, interesting things that we did towards the right-hand side of your screen is stay home and get rewarded. We said everyone is in a lockdown mode. No one is allowed to step out. What can I do to ensure that my members are still engaged with me? We said we launched a campaign, stay at home for 24 hours. Uh, we used the native location of from the mobile app. We created a radius of about 100 meters from his point, and then worked upon a data model to check has he been in the last 24 hours gone beyond the 100-meter radius. And if he has not gone and he's actually stayed within the 100-meter radius, we credited him 100 miles. That kind of resonated well with members, saw significant new downloads of the app. Similarly, way back on your left-hand side, we brought in games, that HTML5 games on the application, not only just to play games, but we ensured that every point, every um, you know, score that you would get from the games, we are converting it into miles and rewarding you. So some of these ideas, truly, a lot of this was experimentation. Also, we didn't know what will work, what will not, and we continue to do some of this as we go ahead.
absolutely. And I think the digital building blocks, the micro app structure, parallel teams helped in this. And this is another concept. And I think this is going to, Ketan, this is going to go live in our next release, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, so this was another concept, which was again about collecting step to miles, right? So, keep yourself healthy, collect, the miles by walking, doing other activities, daily chores, exercising. And you see the left hand screen was a rough screen, built using some of the accelerators and the other tools, and then we build on actual screens, and you can see the progression of the feature. Within a few weeks this is ready to go live, and again a testimony to building the right infrastructure, digital foundation, which enables you to do quick pivots, quick prioritization, deprioritization, and ensure that you're always responding to the analytics, you're always responding to the user behavior, you're always responding to the environment there.
I
So I
think
think
that's going to be the key, going forward. To be able to experiment, to have that appetite for experimenting, uh, being able to do quick POCs, and having the right set of partners, engineering talent, who is hungry to bring up the ideas to the table as well. I remember we doing a hackathon as well in the organization, a thinkathon to collate a lot of ideas from the board. How do we keep the engagement up? And some of these outcomes that you see on the screen were actually ideas that came from the employees within, and were then brought to life within a couple of weeks duration.
Yes, absolutely. And you brought a very important point, right, regarding hackathon. So that also re-energized everyone, and some of the best ideas, emerged from bottom-up approach. So yes, so that was some of the interesting things which we did, and I think in summary, if we look at, right, we definitely talked about how a planned digital transformation happens, but InterMiles is a classic case of a forced digital transformation, which resulted in making a truly digital organization, an organization which uses all the digital components to build a business and service, and also deliver it completely digital. So whereas in a typical planned digital transformation, it's about growth, profit maximization, here the initial driver or the igniter was survival. There were no fancy charts, there were no fancy things. It was all about getting into real time vision alignment, getting everybody on the board. And I think, Ketan, you must share sometime what happened in those boardroom and the war room meetings. Instead of creating a big roadmap, having big consultancy organizations helping you, here it was about what is the next best step which I take.
Yeah,
But
I
I'm
think
sure.
one thing that we decided very early on is we will not set up a PMO for this transformation. We will not take any external help for program managing the delivery, because we believe that it is our own responsibility, and no one but us would be able to deliver the change that we wanted in that short duration of 2 months. And we wanted to bring every employee to be part of this transformation, not just from outside, but actually hands-on, with one common goal, delivering the new brand on a particular date, on a particular time. And that did help just motivate and engage the entire audience.
Absolutely. And I think we were very proud to be associated, are proud to be associated with this engagement. And this was really a hell of an experience, but an experience which is going to stay green in our memories for quite a few years to come. I think this transformation of an organization uh, being forced to react to black swan events and come out with flying colors is definitely unprecedented. I think we all already talked about organization existing without a mothership, a flight organization, and still the loyalty program redefining itself. I think this created an opportunity to emerge as a truly lifestyle brand, a truly digital organization. And I think that's an experience for everyone to emulate and cash upon. Thanks, Ketan, for taking us through this journey. Back to you, Rim.
Thank you. Thank you both for the valuable insights. It seems like our audience especially likes the stay at home and get rewarded concept. So that's a testament to your work. And at this time, we would like to get some of your questions answered. As a reminder, you can always use the chat feature or the Q&A feature to ask any questions at any time. And there seems to be here one question for Ashok that we will address. It says, how much time did it take to bring the COVID-19 engagement ideas to market?
Okay, I think this was about all the different ideas which you saw on the screen were about 4 to 6 weeks, and Ketan, you can chime in as well. They were about 4 to 6 weeks, and I think that was made possible again thanks to the digital foundation, the parallel teams in work, the micro services architecture, and also using some of the accelerators and some of the best practices which were in play. And yes, 4 to 6 weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we approached the same agile and prototype framework there. We started with basic nuts and bolts around engagement, taken whatever were the low-hanging fruits and easy quick wins. And now, as we speak, next week onwards, we would be actually launching a big campaign term coined as InterMiles every day, which kind of pulls all of this ideas together in an overarching larger framework, giving the members to earn up to almost 500 miles every day simply by doing any one or more of these engagement activities. So really exciting to awaiting to look at this release that we are doing in just next week.
Thank you. Really excited to see what that looks like as well. We seem to have another question here, which I think is addressed to Ketan, but feel free to chime in as you see fit. It says, you have shown great approach towards customer engagement in pandemics by adding games, quizzes, and step rewards, which definitely results into increased customer engagement. But then how did you manage to earn and maintain the revenue?
Sorry, can you repeat, Rim, the last part for me?
It says, how did you manage to earn and maintain the revenue?
Oh, yes. So at this point of time, we went with a partnership model. We work with a lot of partners within the existing ecosystem. So we tried to figure out, yes, there was some bit of sponsorship that came in from internally, which was the miles that we sponsored for engagement, and that is what we took as an activity from our side. But then because we work with a lot of ecosystem of partners. So to give an example, we started working with a very digital partner called as Fine out here in India, which rewarded, where we started giving free doctor consultation if you, let's say, spin the wheel and won anything. So those kinds of things we started doing, partnered with TEDx. That showed us a lot of good traction, where you could join TEDx webinars and earn miles. So a lot of this partnership ecosystem came in handy to deliver the revenue lines as well for us.
Definitely, thank you. And I believe we have one more here. Maybe Ashok, you can take this one. It says, what were the security practices implemented?
Okay, a good question, right? I think thanks to a lot of activities happening in the Indian subcontinent and overall rise of the digital warfare, right? Security has been more important than ever, right? I think we followed some of the common best practices and also something very specific to this project, right? I think before each commit pull request, there was a peer code review, right, which was implemented. There was a periodic code walkthrough and review with all the team members. I think the environment for storing all the information was very secure, whether your API keys, your secrets, etc. For the back end, you had the OWASP best practices. For the front end, you had the mob SF, integration with the CI/CD. So some of those were in place. I think all the APIs were through a secure token. There was logging, auditing of everything, right? API throttling, all of those things were put in place. I think, as I said, Ketan and team were very clear from the day one that no compromises on the security or the infrastructure or the best practices. So the infrastructure services were not publicly accessible. And there was Akamai cloud security tools also, which we had deployed, right, for seeing the DDoS and then etc. Things were in place. I think the access to infrastructure was through VPN-based things. Ketan, would you like to add anything to this?
No, I think you covered a lot of these points, Ashok. One thing we said was in our DevOps pipeline, we will have DevSecOps from day one. That kind of set the benchmark uh, for the security, and we continues to learn on it. We continue to adopt to it. We did the regular stuff, the VAPTs on regular intervals, some hackathons, etc. But especially in the COVID situation, our focus towards security is now much more granular.
Absolutely. And I think we have time for one last question. And this one says, how did you measure the success of the rebranding?
I'll take that one, maybe. Rebranding was something that we never planned for. Like Ashok mentioned, it was a forced transformation for us. But post rebranding, we had two critical KPIs that we looked out for. One was what is our new website, the intermiles.com? How is the SEO ranking for that? Am I still being in the top 10 pages from the Google perspective? How many people are organically searching jet privilege and migrating to intermiles, or how many of them have actually started searching for the word intermiles itself and coming directly to the site. So those were a couple of key metrics. We closely listened to our call centers. That kind of gave us a vibe of what people are talking about. What kind of questions are people asking when they are calling up regarding their accounts, regarding their program, and how much I am able to turn around these queries in a particular SLA window without much hold. These were the two KPIs: customer satisfaction on the contact center and our SEO rankings on our websites were something that we actually tracked quite closely after the rebranding.
Thank you. Very, very insightful. So I believe these are all the questions we are able to answer at this time. Don't worry if there are any questions remaining in the Q&A section. We'll make sure to answer those by email right after this webinar. Also, be sure to check out and subscribe to DTV, our digital transformation channel that brings in industry experts for thought leadership videos. Many thanks to our speakers, Ketan and Ashok, and thank you everyone for joining us today. You will receive an email in the next 24 hours with this slide presentation and a link to the webcast replay. And if you have any questions, again, please contact us at info@infostretch.com or feel free to reach out to our speakers directly. Thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day.